In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 161 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is connection. Our quote of the day comes to us from Brene Brown. Connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Today's episode is sponsored by the good people over at West Fair Communications, who publish the Westchester County Business Journal and the Fairfield County Business Journal. These newspapers do a wonderful job in covering all aspects of the business world within two of the most influential markets in the New York metropolitan area. You can also take advantage of their daily news feeds, which keep track on the companies and thought leaders in these important regions. For more information, take a look at www.westfaironline.com. Trust me, once you start reading, you won't quit. Our guest today is all about connections, both with and for others. As a former professional tennis player, Brandon Hawk has had his own level of success, both on and off the court. On today's episode, he gets real with us and delivers some practical knowledge. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Brandon, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. It's an honor.
Appreciate it. So the first question I ask everybody is, are you ready to make it happen today?
I am ready to make it happen.
Good stuff. So as I told you before we went live, the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you have either a no-quit story yourself or perhaps a really challenging time that tested you and you could have given up or given in, but you didn't.
Yeah, I think a story that just immediately comes to mind is back in my tennis days. As I started out, I was a very successful tennis player and played in the U.S. Open at the age of 17. And I remember before, and the reason I got to play in the U.S. Open is because I won the U.S. Nationals. And I remember there was a guy I could not beat. There was a guy I just could not beat. And I literally, my coach and I wrote it in my pocket. I will beat the heck out of so-and-so and so, and his name. I had his name on this paper that I put in my pocket. And for 3 months, my main objective was to have that paper on me at all times. And sure enough, at the U.S. Nationals, I draw him very early, my nemesis. And you know what? I think he had probably beaten me 5 or 6 times before that. And I beat him to then go on to get a wild card into the U.S. Open and then win a round in the U.S. Open. So my no-quit story is, I didn't quit and I didn't bow and I didn't okay, well, this guy just has my number and so it's not going to happen. I really persevered and really equipped my mind. My coach was instrumental in that, of helping me reprogram my mind and my subconscious to get over the hump. So that was a big one. Even in that match, I was experiencing some cramping in my body, and so it was a massive overcome moment for me. 3 months in the making, and then even on the court, it was like, man, I really conquered something that 3 months before I would not have thought was possible.
That's a great story, especially not only with the mindset, but also believing it, and also the physical component of carrying that piece of paper around for 3 months, where obviously that's not the only reason why you won, but it just puts yourself in that frame of mind, but also you have to believe it physically and mentally as well. So I got to ask, as you and I spoke offline, I'm a huge tennis guy myself. Who's the best or most well-known player that you ever played against?
I've played against, Andy Roddick, and I battled it out for years. James Blake, and my claim to fame. I've played in, played in the U.S. Open, played in Australian Open, played in Wimbledon, lost 9-7 in the fifth to Marat Safin. My doubles partner and I did, who he won the U.S. Open the year before. So he's a pretty amazing player. But my claim to fame is I warmed up Pete Sampras every match before his or winning his final Grand Slam, right? So every match I was his warm up partner. So I probably warmed up in front of more people than I played in front of when I practiced with Pete. So we practiced on Arthur Ashe Court before every one of his matches, and that was just an amazing experience to be a part of his team and his journey, winning his last major.
That's awesome. That was the last U.S. Open he won, correct?
Yeah, that was. And I was on the U.S. national team at an early age. So what they would do is they would take the U.S. national team kids, like the top 5 of us, and we would go and we would train like with Jim Courier, Michael Chang, Pete Sampras, Andre, David Wheaton. Those were guys that we would practice with, and they would send us to their, wherever they were practicing. Sometimes their homes, sometimes they would all come together. And so that I got to experience that at a very early age, which was just amazing.
That's awesome. I love the sport of tennis, but what I like about it is, you're competing by yourself with yourself. Yes, there are doubles matches, but when it deals with the singles, you're on the side of the net by yourself, and it's the ultimate sport because there's nobody who can do it for you. So, wanted to ask you, Brendan, if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do today.
I am I'm an executive coach, a celebrity coach. I work with high achievers, and I coach high achievers to create connected success. And I have a program called the U Training that they go through. And I've been in the coaching business for about 7 years now, and Chris, I just love it. It's such an honor who I like to work with, and we get to go to some really deep places and some vulnerable places in their life. And it feels like such an honor just to get to do what I do. I'm an inspirer, motivator, coach at heart. I really love people, and I enjoy working with people who've really accomplished a lot but feel disconnected from themselves. And that happens a lot, right? These individuals that have these massive gifts, these massive worlds, they've created these massive companies, but they left themselves out of the process. They feel a lot of the responsibility, they feel a lot of the obligation, a lot of the pressure, but very little of the reward. And we have a training that these individuals go through to create congruent and connected success. And it's really my story, being a young athlete, and my own journey of healing. So now I get paid. I tell people I feel like I'm extremely lucky. I get paid to heal, and I get paid to take people through my own healing journey.
Now, I think being a former athlete and a former college coach myself, I think a lot of the overlap in the sports world into business, personal, professional. So I definitely can echo what you just said, and it's really exciting when you get to help people. And I just had 2 clients this past week that had pretty significant breakthroughs, and it's really interesting to watch because, again, from the sports side, it's like having a coach when he helps his player or his team win a big game or get to a point. So I definitely appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you, in regards to, you talked about high achievers, how do you personally define success, or what does success look like to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't see success anymore as just getting to the top, right? That's the old game. I feel like the old game is, anybody with just a little bit of talent and some understanding of the laws of nature, right, and how things work, can climb a ladder per se to the top. That to me is not success. Success to me now is how connected can you feel along the way? How congruent can you feel along the way to your success? And connected success to me is the new game. And that's what I see. If someone's connected, if they're congruent, if they're tapped in internally, if their insides and their outsides match, right? If their internal reality and their external reality match, that to me is true success. And it doesn't matter if someone runs a hardware store or if they're an A-list celebrity. Success is congruence, and especially at an emotional level, not cutting off your emotions to achieve, not cutting off your heart to achieve. That to me is the old game, cutting off, the internal reality to press ahead. I love what Maya Angelou says. She says it's people may or may not remember what you have achieved or done, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I say that in, you may or may not remember what you accomplished, but you will definitely remember how you felt along the way. And that's important to me. It's important to me.
That's a great quote, and you jumped the gun a little bit, so now I don't have to ask you if you have a favorite quote, because we're going to use that one for you.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's by far my favorite.
So if I had to ask you to define yourself, but you could only use one word, what would that word be?
Oh, courageous. Yeah, courageous.
It's a good word we don't get often, and I love interviewing different people because you always get different answers.
Yeah, you only said I can only say courageous, but I feel like that I have been courageous enough to, follow my heart at times when it's not popular, and to pioneer some paths that, self-love coaching and that really wasn't a path, right? And even for me, I could have done something that may have looked or felt even bigger, been a commentator or things of that nature, but to follow that path and for now it to lead to what it's led into, I feel very courageous following that path.
So I want to touch on that for a minute. So you said something, self-love coaching, if you wouldn't mind just expanding on that for a short bit.
Yeah, I when it comes down to it, it's really about, do we love ourselves? And do you love you? And what is your relationship like with yourself? I had this amazing opportunity as a kid to get to travel all over the world at a very young age playing tennis, and 40 weeks a year. So I got to see all cultures. And what I saw was everyone wants the same thing. They want to be loved. And we're all looking for love. And so why not give it to ourselves? Give to ourselves what we've been looking for within others and within what we do. And I teach these individuals who've been trying to get love from their sport or from their acting or for their business, or they've been trying to get approval, which is really love, from what they do. I teach them how to give that love to themselves, and so that they're not using what they do. It's kind of like they're taking from what they do and trying to appease something rather than, living congruent and learning to give that love to themselves. And I call it living from love rather than for love. And just has a totally different result when people live from love rather than for it.
No, I think that's really neat that you touch on that, because I think so many people in business and life spend so much of their time, effort for other things, for other people, and I think so many people put themselves last, if even last. So I think that's really neat that you touched on that. So one of the things we talk about, Brandon, is the importance of a daily or a morning ritual or routine. I was curious if you have a morning or a daily routine or ritual that you swear by.
I do. I spend the first 20 minutes of my morning in meditation. Very important to me. It's, I don't know what your audience feels about that. That's a little too woo-woo, and I thought it was at first, but it has. I get next to. I have before we moved, I had a refrigerator that would make a noise, and I would go sit by it, and I would listen to that hum, and I would clear my mind, and it just puts me in a state where, just a clear state to start the day. And then from that place, I usually do a polar plunge. Love to get into cold water, and I also, depending on the day, start out with a workout. So a little hot yoga. That's my workout of choice.
I love how you touched on not only the meditation but the polar plunge. It's something that has actually been brought up 3 or 4 times in the last month or so. Is the importance of a cold shower, and I think it's something that I definitely didn't understand. I'm actually 11 days in myself now of a 30-day cold shower challenge, and the first 2 or 3 days I despised it, but now it's something that I'm kind of getting used to. So I definitely understand how that's one of your morning routines that you stick by.
Oh yeah, man, I mean, that feeling of getting out, right, and just you feel the aliveness, everything lights up. Yeah, it's. I'm with you on the despise. I probably still despise it a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I absolutely love it and I look forward to it more than anything, but it does 100% wake you up, and I think the scientific, I guess, benefits of what it is and the health and mental, it's pretty hard to argue. But even with it all said, it's still the first 15 or 20 seconds, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking of probably some really good 4-letter choice words.
That's exactly right. You want to punch someone.
So I want to switch lanes here for a second, and I wanted to ask you a question. Assuming the 20-year-old version of yourself would have listened, what's the one piece of advice you would have liked to have given to 20-year-old Brandon?
I've been asked that question twice in 2 days, so I love that this keeps coming up. I must need to hear the answer. Worry. Don't worry. Worry is I would tell my 20-year-old self, you're 39, like, you're okay. You're in a good place. Like, you're protected. You're safe. Even if you lost it all, you're still good with you. So don't worry. It only keeps you from experiencing the present moment and creating amazing experiences with people. There's absolutely no need to waste your energy on worry. That's what I would tell myself, that kind of future worry and even motivating myself out of a fear of future and using worry as a catalyst is just an inferior way to live. And so I would tell myself that it just keeps me from being present with my family.
That's great advice, and I think I remember reading within the last month or two the importance of when people worry about things, you just overcomplicate, you overthink things, and most of the time what you're worrying about never comes to fruition. So I think that's great advice, and probably some advice I should have given or listened to probably to myself when I was 20.
Yeah, I think, and I'm really starting to tap into that now just in my life. Like when I get into future worry, I'm actually giving it a better opportunity to happen because I'm imprinting it into my subconscious, right? So it keeps me from the present moment where all the magic is. So.
No, I like that. And now here's another question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
If I could have dinner with anyone, who would it be? Oh, that's a tough question. Dead or alive, huh? That's a little broad. And I'm stalling right now because of that. The first person that came up, and I don't know why, so I'll just give you the first person that came up was Barack Obama. That was the very first person that came up in my mind, was to have dinner with Barack Obama. I would love to have dinner with him.
And I know before we went live, you said you're a big basketball guy as well, so I know who he is too. So if nothing political or whatnot, you at least could definitely talk some hoops and tennis with him.
I would bet there's probably a deeper answer that I could come to if I thought about it. But on the surface, I would love to talk hoops and insider White House stuff with Barack Obama. That would just be too fun.
You probably have an interesting conversation. So one of the things at No Quit Living we often talk about is the concept of accountability. And I wanted to ask you, what does the word accountability mean to you?
Yeah, I like this word. this is it's also coming up in my life a lot right now. Is just when I hear accountability, I think accountability and control are two different things. I think control is like fear's version of accountability, and so many times we put control mechanisms on ourselves rather than holding ourselves accountable to our greatness. And to me, holding myself accountable to my greatness and to the greatness that is inside of me is far more effective than trying to control my behavior. And I've lived in both worlds where I felt like my behaviors needed to be controlled, but I'm seeing holding myself accountable to my greatness is far greater as far as the feeling of freedom and also the results that it produces. And I'm a big believer in being with others and allowing others to know you in such a way that they can hold you accountable to who you really are as well. I think that's so important. Oftentimes we won't allow others to know us in such a way where they can have access to our greatness, right? And hold us accountable to our greatness. So.
No, and I love how you touched on holding people accountable, because one of the things we often talk about and teach and coach with is the importance of having an accountability partner. And you said a word that I just love is vulnerability, and being vulnerable is to really dive in, not only with our clients and the clients you work with, but also with accountability and accountability partners. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, to expose yourself to that accountability partner and say, hey, here's where I really want to improve or get better or change or tweak an area of my life. I'd like for you to hold me accountable. It's hard to do that, and a lot of people can't do that with a lot of people.
Yeah, I've even seen that the most vulnerable is allowing people into the bigness of who we are, right? And being really vulnerable about the greatness that is inside of us, and that it's easier to allow people into some of the behaviors, but to really allow people into the bigness of who you are, and then allow them to hold you accountable to that. I mean, now that's like rocket fuel. So, but it is very scary to allow people into that space.
No, I couldn't agree more. So before we wrap up real quick, I wanted to ask you if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Yeah, I think that connected success, congruence, not leaving your heart out to produce a result, not leaving that little boy part of you out to produce a result, like really making sure that that you feel connected along the way. We call it inspired action versus manic action. Living in inspired action from a connected space rather than being frantic or manic with your action from a disconnected place, it will produce results that are far different. And learning to live, just that connected life to your heart, and then taking action from a place of inspiration. And if you feel manic or frantic, if you feel like you're just all over the place, know that is a part of you that's being bypassed, and it's a part of your internal reality that you're afraid to look at. And don't be afraid to look at it. Go in, look at it, and there's a lot of dormant power in that emotional energy, and a lot of inspiration in that emotional energy. So, that would be my manic action never pays. Connected success comes from a place of inspired action, and that's. Take it from someone who was a manic action taker, an overgiver. It always leads in disconnection. So,
I appreciate it. I think that's some great advice. And then, Brandon, for our listeners that would like to connect with you or follow you, what's the best way? And then one side question is, you did mention a book that you have coming out in January. So if you want to touch on that, as well as the best way for our listeners to either connect, follow you, or for those of them that might maybe like to look into your program, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
My website's brandonhawk.com. Also, I have a free ebook called I'm Calling BS. And then I have a program called the U Journey. My brand is the U, YOU. And I have a program called the U Journey that it's really my 15 years of coaching experience, and all rolled into this 274-page workbook. Also, you get some group coaching calls as well when you sign up for that, and that's at ujourney.co. It's so valuable. I mean, it's all of this information. It's really the journey from the head to the heart, and really how to live connected and how to create inspired action. And so, that's how you can follow me. You can follow me on my social media platforms on Facebook or Instagram. And if anyone out there is interested as well if you're a high achiever, and you're wanting to create connected success in your world or with your company, man, shoot us an email. We'd love to talk.
Well, listen, Brandon, I appreciate not only you sharing what you shared, but taking the time out of your busy schedule to connect with us, and then hopefully we can speak again soon.
Chris, thank you so much. Yeah, I wish you a lot of success, continued success, my friend.
Thank you for listening to episode number 161. From the tennis court and now into businesses, offices, and conference rooms, Brandon Hawk is coaching people to become high achievers. Brandon's advice he would have given to the 20-year-old version of himself was don't worry. He then went on to elaborate how worrying only keeps you from experiencing the present moment. Great advice that I feel we can all really and truly apply. Worrying definitely keeps us from focusing on and creating our own magic. In his parting words, Brandon suggested that we take inspired action from a connected place. So my question to our listeners today is, how connected and present are you with your day and the people in both your personal and professional circles? Are you truly connected and present, or are you just there? Do you connect with others while checking text messages, Instagram, and updating Facebook on your phone? Or are you truly connected with both yourself and others? I challenge you today, no matter where you are or who you are with, aim to connect with them and do so genuinely. Don't half-ass it or just go through the motions. Try and genuinely connect with both yourself and others. Look to connect as you go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.